to Adjust Inc. presents If Testimony Was a Person. Today we have a person that does a lot related to business in Nassau County and Queens. Somebody who's a guide, person who helps to organize businesses.
Yes.
All right. And much more. So today we have Richalin Rodney. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. It's so great to be here.
It is a pleasure to have you. So Richalin Rodney is the CEO of
R.Rodney Consultant.
R.Rodney Consulting.
Yes.
And tell us just a little bit about what you do, and then we'll go back from there.
Sure, of course. So my name is Richalin Rodney, and I'm the owner of R.Rodney Consultant. We are a consulting agency for minority and women-owned businesses, right? So we'll help you to start your business, run it, manage it. Also, we do MWE certifications, business funding, business development, and pretty much, honestly, anything to grow your business. And currently, right now, I do work primarily in the United States. However, we are starting to venture out to back home, Jamaica, helping businesses there, helping international companies start businesses overseas as well, and hoping to reach a few different continents at
That
this
is
point. So,
wonderful.
yeah,
That's
thank
wonderful. Now, you mentioned Jamaica being home. Were you born in Jamaica?
I was born here, but my family is from Kingston. So we are from Kingston. My mom is from St. Elizabeth. My dad is from Kingston. But I go back probably every other month.
Every other month. See, I
Yeah.
thought you were going to say every year. You said every other month. That's wonderful.
I'm a frequent traveler at this point, so I need to get my dual citizenship. To be honest, I'm there so much, but we are, like I said, my family's from Kingston, Jamaica. They came here in the '70s, and they pretty much just had all of their children, my cousins, me, my sister, my family, etc. Our generation is based here, right? And I grew up in Queens, New York, South Side, Jamaica, Queens, as everyone loves to say.
So when you guys came here, you didn't start out in Brooklyn like 90%
No,
of
they
us.
did
They
actually.
did. I knew it was
Yes,
Brooklyn.
yeah. So when my family came from Jamaica, they actually moved to East New York, right? So a lot of, and here's the craziest thing: my entire family stayed in Brooklyn. My dad was the only one to come to Queens. So when he came to Queens, everybody was like, "What are you doing?" You know. But he wanted a house, he wanted space, and he actually bought. You have to see how my dad's house is, but he bought 2 plots of land and he built his house from the ground up
Oh, I
on one
love it.
plot. And then we have a massive yard, is because it's another plot of land.
Right.
But my dad came to Queens because he wanted more land. He wanted to actually build a property. He built it by himself, the ground up.
There's a meme that says started from the bottom, now we're here.
Yep.
And started from the bottom is Brooklyn, and then Elmont is like we have arrived.
Okay,
I mean,
yeah.
it's kind of, but it is a truism that people start out in Brooklyn,
Yes.
and maybe they had an apartment. And Brooklyn is a wonderful place. So please, people, I love Brooklyn. I was born in Brooklyn,
Right.
but generally that story of wanting a little more space and maybe wanting to live in a one family house
Yeah.
brought people to Queens or sometimes Long Island.
Yeah.
And so what age did you come to Queens about?
So I was born in Queens.
You were born in Queens,
Yeah, so
okay.
my dad, pretty much just like my family, when they came from here, when they came from Jamaica to the US, right?
Yeah.
They bought a multifamily property. So it was, I think it was like 3 over 3 over 3. It was like one of the bigger things, but they actually bought it and my entire family lived in it. So my grandparents had 9 kids
Right.
and they were married since they were 13 in Jamaica. So it's one, those stories where they have like a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
So, and I think a lot of West Indian families, we do come from really big families.
Big ones, yeah.
Yeah. So when they came to America, they came with their 9 children, slowly by slowly by slowly. And when they actually arrived here, they all lived in that multifamily house, right? And they owned it. They lived there until it burnt down a few years later. It was actually some time later. And then everyone started to venture to their own places. But, I mean, Brooklyn is home pretty much for the Rodneys, I would say, right? Because that's pretty much where we went to. My grandfather actually owned a deli as well, a bodega, I guess you can say.
So business was in your blood.
literally, it's from Jamaica. Business was in our blood,
Yeah.
right? So it's a lot of crazy stories. I won't tell it because but the reality of it is that when they came here, they did start to really venture into it. My grandfather owned a deli, and if you go to Brooklyn, you'll still see it says like the Rodney store. It's now owned by like a little agency, but underneath, I don't know why they never changed the.
East New York?
Yeah, right in East New York.
Oh, wow. What
So on
street?
Pickin and don't get me wrong, but I think Euclid.
Okay. All right.
Right. So it's right there, and but they own that. My uncle owned the nightclub, and then my aunt owns apartment buildings,
Wow.
supermarket. Like my family was truly business owners when they came here,
Yeah.
and then they translated that down to my generation. So
Now represent your street in Queens. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up on Rockaway Boulevard.
Rockaway
So yeah,
Boulevard,
I'm
Jamaica,
in Queens.
Queens.
Yeah, I'm a Queens girl. So I grew up on 130th and Rockaway Boulevard. I went to PS 96, MS 226, and then I graduated from John Adams High School.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
You were really right there in that
I was in
Queens
the epicenter of
area.
Queens.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And what did you do right after high school?
I went to college. So, like every West Indian parent tells you, you got to go to school,
Yeah.
right? So, I actually, very funny story. I got a scholarship to go to St. John's, right? And my mom was like, "You can go. I'm just not paying for it. If you don't get the following year, like the second year of sponsorship." So it was just too much to do at that time. And I was a young mom, right? I had my daughter Jayla. She's 13 now. I always get this wrong, but she's 13 now, right? And it was just me. I was a single mom, etc., etc. So when I didn't want to bargain going to St. John's and owing all of that money, so I ended up going to a CUNY school. And my dad actually works for CUNY. He's a network administrator, but we didn't get any benefits from it, nonetheless.
Okay.
But I ended up I wanted to go to Brooklyn College, but it was very late for the admissions. So the only school I could go to at the time was Queensboro. Went to Queensboro, I did my 2 years, and then I transferred to Brooklyn College for my bachelor's.
Yeah, that's some story because it's still a big question about college access, and
Yes.
when I think about young people being a former college advisor in a high
Mm-hmm.
school, I think about young people getting into a place like St. John's, or sometimes even a private school out of
Yeah.
state, or even a Virginia state, or you have to ask yourself how much you are paying for that education that truly may not be that much superior, or if at
Mm-hmm.
all, to the education you could get at a Brooklyn college.
Yeah.
I'm a Queens College graduate,
Yeah.
and I am always very grateful that I didn't pay student loans because
Mm-hmm.
after work, I went to school and I finished my degree,
Right.
and I believe that I paid about $2,400 a semester,
Mm-hmm.
and I used to save my money scientifically with my father's help. I used to pay my tuition
Yeah.
out front. So with tuition in college, how was it for you? Did you pay as you paid as you went?
Yes. So I got financial aid because again I was a young mom. So
Mm-hmm.
and I was working. So I got that financial aid help. But other than that, I did pay out of pocket because I
Yeah.
was working. But the reason why I did go to a CUNY school, and most of my family that is in New York, right? Because we are in other parts of the USA as well. But we all went to CUNY schools. And because my dad he works for CUNY, he's on sabbatical right now, but because he worked in CUNY, he always just said, listen, it's a great school.
Yes.
There's no reason why you
Yeah.
shouldn't go. And I really wanted to go to a school called Babson Business School.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
Babson.
really wanted to go to Babson, but the tuition was just so high.
Yeah.
And living in New York, I knew it would either be CUNY or SUNY because the reality of it is that the tuition at the time I think was like $3,000 a year,
Mm-hmm.
versus going to St. John, which was $42,000 a year.
Wow,
So
that's
it
a
was,
big
yeah, it's a
difference.
big difference. And it's like, dude,
Yeah.
I don't have any student loans. I made it through school. I didn't get my bachelor's because I was working and I was making like around $100,000 when I was working. I was in the auto industry for a long time. So it
Mm-hmm.
kind of, I am one of those people, the money just kind of took away from me. And I just said, even if I go to school and graduate in my field, I would never make the money that I was making.
Yeah.
So I'm a college dropout.
Uh, That's a great segue, though.
Yeah.
You were working in the auto industry. I mean,
Yeah.
were you fixing engines? No, I'm only kidding.
No. Unfortunately, no. The only part of the auto industry that I didn't work in was service, right? So I've never was a service advisor, wasn't anything, but I was the receptionist. I did BDC, which is Business Development Center. So I did that, right? And that would be the internet leads. You bring it in, et cetera, et cetera. So I did that for a while. I worked at Audi, and then I went to Land Rover. Um, then I became the portfolio manager at Land Rover. Then I went to Mercedes Benz for a little bit. I became the portfolio manager there. Then I went back to Land Rover. I did sales. I did portfolio manager for all three stores on Long Island. And then I became a salesperson. And then I left there. I went to Manhattan. I became the business development director for Land Rover, Maserati, Alfa Romeo, Jeep, Dodge, Chrysler, Ram, Fiat.
That is
So
very interesting.
yeah.
Now, I didn't really know that.
Yeah.
I thought that you maybe came out of college and went straight into business development with a car dealership, but you actually started off
At the bottom.
right and
No.
then got into sales eventually. Explain the portfolio manager position.
So a portfolio manager is like, let's say you have a lease, right?
Yeah.
And your lease is coming due. What I would do is I'll call you and I'll say, hey, listen, your lease is coming due. We want to retain you as a customer. So the portfolio manager would literally manage the portfolio of the clients
I
that
see.
already bought vehicles.
I see.
So that's what I did. But versus the business development director, I had my own department. It was 7 girls. And what they would do was girls, 1 guy. And what we would do is we would manage all inbound leads from like Land Rover USA, Maserati USA, floor leads, service leads, portfolio management. We pretty much just did anything to get the client to buy a car to come in to meet with a salesperson.
Right.
So that's what my department did.
So basically, when looking for a car, we need to come to you
Right,
because
yeah.
you probably have a lot of connections in that
Still do.
industry.
I'm that girl, in the auto industry. But yeah.
So that was your introduction into corporate America.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so funny because I was in the auto industry for 10 years, I guess you can say, and I dressed up every day.
Yeah.
So, and it's so funny because my reps, they would always make fun of me, like, why do you wear heels every day? And I'm like, I'm so used to doing it
Yeah.
that it's just like secondhand nature, right? But in corporate America, because I was in an executive position, it has its pros and its cons, right? Because I was one of my managers said this to me, right? He always called me a token black girl, right? And I don't know if a lot of people know what that means. Do you know that you're familiar
Well,
with it?
I definitely am, but say it for the
Right.
audience.
So a token black girl, black person is somebody who is like they are the exception of other black people, right? So and what that means is that we're not like loud or ghetto or any of those things. You literally can fit into any room and you have this persona that you're like a token one of the group. So that's what my manager said to me.
Wow.
And I'll never forget when I was hiring people, and it was my first time ever hiring anyone from my department, right? And I sat down, I did the interviews, I did everything.
Yeah.
He took me downstairs and he was like, can I be honest? I'm like, what? Yes, you can. He said, I thought you were going to hire more people like you. Right. And I was just like, what do you mean? And he's like, you're a token black girl. I'm like, I don't know what that means. But of course I knew what it meant. Right. But he was saying that in his world, he was just like, I want more people like you. And I just let him know there's not a lot of people out there like me. Right. And this comes from the culture that I came from, the family that I grew up in.
Yeah.
And the struggles, everything that I went through, that's what made me into this person. But I can get you, I can grow a department and thing, which is what I did. So they came in, I trained them, and I did all these other stuff. So
Yeah. No, it's an
yeah,
interesting journey, and I'm just thinking that in that environment, him saying, "Well, you're the token black girl."
yeah.
Were you comfortable enough with that person that it didn't bother you that he was
No,
saying that?
no. So we didn't have that kind of relationship, right? But in the auto industry, because it's a male-dominated industry,
Yeah.
as a female, you gotta kind of know how to move and to pivot and maneuver in the industry, right? So I literally was somebody who I went to work and I went home. I didn't engage. I didn't go to dinners. I didn't literally do anything with my coworkers because I didn't
Yeah.
want to have that relationship with them, right? So for me, I feel like they didn't really know how to
I
handle
can
me
imagine.
or engage with
Yeah.
me because I didn't give them the opportunity to engage. Because to me, like my family always say, work is work. You go to work to work. You don't go to work to do anything else. So I never had that relationship with them. So when he said it to me, I was a little taken back, but at the end of the day, he's still my manager. What is there to
Understood.
say, you
Yeah.
know? So,
You know, it's funny that when when I think about work is work, that makes a lot of sense coming in as a first generation professional or something like
yeah.
that. But then as I got into business, I did realize that some of the people who you sit down with and eat dinner and or have a little drink with, that these end up, if they begin to trust you, see something in you, like what you're doing, inspired by you, whatever it is, these often in business become the people who can help you.
Yep.
And so I don't look at it like that anymore. But I could definitely see how, as a family coming from Jamaica who is business minded,
Yeah.
if you're going into school or work, you are going there to learn, or you're going there to, work. So
Yeah.
mind your business
Yep.
and bring
Yep.
yourself home,
Yeah.
right?
And that's literally what my dad taught us, right? Because he's like, you don't go to school to play. You
Yeah.
go to school to go to school. And he's a professor, right? So to him, it's like school is super important.
Yeah.
And he's just like, listen, you always tell us all the time, you don't have that much time here. So what you're doing is you go to get it done and you move on.
Right.
And I do definitely agree with you when you do make relationships at work and business. I think it's two different things, right? Because this is our job, our businesses that we hold. But when you're actually working in, you're someone's employee, that's where I think it's a little bit different, right? So in my office, in my department, I always say that my girls, they broke me down because I would come in and it was, my desk was at the front, and then I had four desks this way, four that on each side of the room,
Yeah.
and it was so quiet you could drop a pin. And I felt like they were resenting me because they were just like, oh, so miserable. So then I started to do things. I would actually talk with them and engage with them. But I'm a very reserved person. It's very hard for me to open up, right?
Yeah.
So, and because we're in the room all day, it was just like you make 100 phone calls a day and you go home. There's no need for you guys to talk and engage
Yeah.
and do this. If you take a lunch break, you do whatever. But as I started to get different characters, I always tell them. And it's so funny because I always made a joke. I would say that I hired each one of my split personalities because they were all so different, you know? But what they taught me as a boss or their manager, whatever you would like to call it, but what they taught me was you have to have a personal relationship with the people that you work with because it makes it so much better.
Yeah.
You know? And once I actually started to look at it like that and open up in that kind of way, I did see that we had much better engagements and we worked better. We were
Yeah.
number one in the country month after month after month, but that's because we had a great time. And anytime we did those things, I would take them out to eat or I'll buy, lunch, or we'll go to
Yeah.
Krispy Kreme. Like we would do things to make them happy to come to work.
There's a book, The Five Dysfunctions of a Team, and it talks about how people who trust each other
Yeah.
work together better
Yeah.
as a team, and is also in business. It's people just a goodwill can go a long
Yes,
way.
it can.
I really like you, Richland. I'm gonna recommend you for
Yeah.
this person or that one, and so corporate America and you know you being in the car industry, where did you go from there?
So I left the car industry for a lot of different reasons, right? So one of the primary reasons was as a black woman, we change our hair a lot. So just put that out there, right? So
Yep.
I would come, when I was working in Long Island, I would always wear like a weave, right? But I'm not a big weave girl. So it was hard for me because it's like I had to step outside of what I really like to do.
Yeah.
So, but I always noticed that like I would get a different response from the customers, especially when I was selling cars. They would get different responses depending on how I look. But then I started to I was like, I don't even really care anymore. I'm going to wear my afro. I'm going to wear my hair how it is. I'm going to wear my braids and That's what it was. Of course, like one manager, he used to call me Shaniqua. He knew my name. We engage, we do whatever. Like we would talk to each other, but he was like, "Oh, Shaniqua," but he'll do it as a like as a joke. But I never found it funny, right?
Yeah, that would be what's known as a microaggression. If that, it
Correct.
might be worse than a microaggression to call someone a name that's
Yeah.
not theirs
Yeah.
because they're, I don't know,
My
too black.
parents. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
my parents, right? So, and when he would call me Shaniqua, I would always feel some type of way inside, right? So I remember one day, and it was so many reasons. Like the reason why I left Long Island was I was having a conversation with my manager. He started to yell at me. And I have this thing, I kind of need my hands, like when I'm nervous or if I'm getting upset, I start to need
Yeah.
my hands. So when he was yelling at me, he said, "You have anything to say?" It's like, absolutely not. So when I left his office, I told the owner, because he was there every day, I said, "I'm going to quit." He said, "Why?" I said, "Because I almost got to the point of yelling back at him." And I said, if I'm going to be here where I'm going to have to be, he already creates a hostile environment, right? If I'm going to disrespect him, I don't want to work him any. I don't want to work here anymore. And that's when I left. I went to Manhattan and, I did the interview and I ended up leaving like 2 weeks later. And the owner said to me, he's like, "This is by far like you're like one of the best employees that has ever left." And he's like, "This is one of the easiest things." He's like, "If you ever want to come back here and work, you can." And I told him, as long as he works here, I would never work here, But nonetheless, I went to Manhattan. So the reason why I actually left the auto industry was my department was making a lot of money. And the reason why we were making a lot of money is because we were doing a lot of business, right? So they were paying, let's say, roughly in commission, salary, $30,000 to $40,000 a month to myself and my team, right? And there are different internet-based things that can do the work of a BDC, but for significantly less.
A
So
BDC is a business development.
Mint Center,
Right.
which is what my department was. So we were making around 30 to 40,000, and they one day the system started going down, right? So I said to the team, I was like, "I don't know what's going on." It was like, "All of our notes are going, this is going, our emails are being kicked out." We couldn't figure it out, and plus my department wasn't doing anything wrong. So I said they outsourced it. So I was like, "What does that mean?" I said they outsourced this department. Went downstairs to my manager and I said, "Hey, so and so, what's going on with the things?" "I have no clue. I'm in the dark. I have absolutely no clue." And then towards the end of the day, they called us all into like the office and they said, "This didn't come from our team, it came from the VP." And it's so funny because I worked for the VP 5 years prior at Audi, right? And we had a great relationship. And when he found out that I was becoming a manager there, he was extremely happy. He's Trinidadian. So we have that kind of Caribbean relationship or whatever. But he's another person. I just don't engage that well with them. But nonetheless, he was on vacation. I was emailing him. I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" He's like, "I don't know. I'm on vacation." Later that evening, all of the systems shut down. We couldn't get back into anything. They called us in the office and they said, "Listen, it's nothing personal, but we're disbanding this department." And once they told me what company they were going with, they were paying them $5,000 a month to do what we were doing for $40,000 a month. I left and I never looked back. I never went back into the auto industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. I mean, business is about making
Yeah.
money, and people figure out how to make more money, and they simply get rid of those who they're paying
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is that the inhumane approach
I
where
mean,
you're at work trying to do your job, unable to do it, and then
like, what's going on?
right, you're
Yeah.
summarily told, "Oh, listen, it's not personal, but have a great life."
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah,
And I understood it. My team didn't, right? Because they were just like, "We're gonna sue, we're gonna do this." I'm like, what are you guys getting upset for? I was like, "Pack your stuff and go home." And they were just like, "Oh, you're so okay with it. We know you're gonna be fine." I was like, "No, it's not about. I have to pick up and start over as well." But the reality of it is you're screaming and yelling for what? They made their decision. Their decision is we're gonna make a business move, and our business move is to pay someone else less money to do what your department is doing.
yeah.
I'm like, it's no hard feelings. You have to take your feelings out of it. And that's how we left it.
And so from there, is that when you went off on your own and
Yes.
started? Right. Okay.
Right.
So now you go and I guess your brain started formulating some new ideas.
I went home and I was very sad. And my significant other, I hate the word boyfriend, but my significant other, he was just like, what are you sad for? And da da da, you'll figure it out. So a year prior, we actually started a trucking company, which was in 2018, but we didn't do anything with it because he was already running under his dad's trucking company, right? So I was just like, I don't know what we're gonna do. I don't know what we're gonna do. So we had that there, but during that time period, I said I couldn't figure out what I was gonna do. So he said, "Well, do what you already know what to do." He said, "You started our business. Why don't you just do this for other people?" So once that was like the premise and stuff like that, once we made that decision to do, he gave me that idea and so forth, right? I was just like, okay, let me build on it, because he said, listen, you built up this business for Land Rover, just do it for yourself. Yeah, so he was like, if you did this already for Land Rover, you did the business development, just do it for yourself and do it for other people. So that's where the premise came from. It started with me wanting to do business consulting for dealerships, right? But then I don't like the I hate to say the misogynist kind of thing, but I don't like how they dealt with women
Right.
in the car industry.
No, it's real.
So I said, I'm not going back there. I'm going to help my people, which is where I came with the premise for R.Rodney Consultant. That was in 2019. And then COVID hit during 2020. I was pregnant as well with my daughter. She's now 2. And we had our trucking company, and we was like, he said, listen, we're going to go forward with this one because this is a recession-proof business, right?
Yeah.
No matter what, trucks
Oh,
have
in
to
fact,
move.
you might have more deliveries.
I mean, we were swamped with deliveries, if I'm being honest with you. So 2020,
So you deliver within the New York area or
the
national?
tri-state.
Tri-state area.
We do go more so, I would say, we'll go from like here to Florida, stuff like that, and venture
Right.
back and forth. But
Right.
yeah, we're a local company. So, we started with 2 trucks, now we have 7. So, yeah.
That is wonderful. And additionally, you help people to. I want you to say the things you do because
Yeah.
I know you've done some stuff for me, us, and you've done, I believe, a lot more than just work in corporate America and have the trucking company. So talk about how you help organize businesses.
So with R.Rodney Consulting, which is my primary business,
Yeah.
right? We start, so we'll do your business formation, we'll give you the corporate kit, stock certificates, everything that you need for a business. So we start businesses for entrepreneurs. We also help you run and to manage it. So that's the business development business plan inside, right? If you need a business plan, you come to me. Capability statement, you
Right.
come to me. Anything that is required to plan and develop your business, that's what I would do, right? And then also managing it, because customer service is my area of expertise. If you ever need to train your staff or do anything, but it's not one of the bigger things that I publicize, but that is something that we do as well.
That's excellent.
So, and also business funding. If you ever need to acquire a loan for your business, SBA, any kind of loan to just grow and stuff, that's what I do. And then the MWBE certifications, right? So there is a lot of money that is allocated to minority businesses. However, we don't know about it, nor do we go after it, right? And so when I found out about the MWBE certification, it was in the process of getting a certification for my business. And my significant other, he pretty much just said, hey, listen, I know somebody who wants a certification. And I already did our certification.
So you knew how to do it.
It was plug and play,
Yeah.
And then from there, I just started. I mean, I probably do 10 certifications a month.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah. And one of my clients actually secured a contract. It was like $1 million to get something done within 10 months. But they were not they were a woman-owned, non-minority, but they were a woman-owned business, right? And when she told me how she went through the bidding process and everything to get it, I'm just like, this is like a gold mine, but we don't know about it
Yeah.
because we don't venture into that world. So that's another big thing. And I talk about certifications until I'm like blue in the face, because it's like there's so much money. The government allocates literally 30% of whatever money they have to minority businesses.
Wow.
So if that's 10 billion, That's so funny. Like,
You're talking about 3 point something billion
yeah,
dollars
that has to go
to
to
minority owned.
MWBEs,
Yeah.
right? But we're not even doing the certifications to get that money. Like, we're just sitting on our hands. So listen, I am R.Rodney consultant, who I am, everything, and this comes from like my upbringing, my parents, my family. I am all for the development of minority people, right? But in the world of business. So
Absolutely,
that's
absolutely. I love that. The fact that it's a passion for you and it's what you specialize in is great. And when you said that you do 10 certifications a month, it's great that you as a business are doing that. But it also says that people are learning.
yeah,
Like you
they
said,
are.
like how people are not going after the money, but people are learning if people are getting certified.
But let me say this: they're not minorities.
Oh,
That is a bigger issue that I have, right? So issue in sense of like the issue that I have in the sense of like I'll preach it, but they're still not doing it. And it drives me crazy, right? So non-minorities will come to me each month, month after month, because once I do their friends and they'll come to, they refer and refer. My accountant also refers a lot of people to me as well, right? So we just keep going and going and going. And I'm going to service them, yeah. But the reality is I want my people to do it as
so
well.
wait a minute. But if you're doing MWBE certification, don't isn't it that the businesses have to be 51% minority or women?
MWBE,
Right,
so minority or women,
minority or women.
right? So let's give an example. I'm a MWBE business, right? Because I'm 51% owner in my trucking company, right? And I do all of the books. I do everything in the back office. So clearly I'm 51%.
Right.
We got both status, the M and the W. So we qualify for any certification that's minority or women, right? When these non-minorities come to me, they're only doing the WBE. But they know
So
it's money there.
it's a lot of white women that are benefiting from the MWBE because they are
It's a
WBEs.
lot of non-minorities. I won't say it's the women that's coming after it, but once they come, we pretty much just say like, "Hey, listen," because I think that in business is so many different things, right? So they'll have their wives on the business, but
I see.
then now they're like, "Okay, I got to give her that extra 1%
Oh,
because I
I
need it."
see.
Right?
Oh, that's the game.
That's
Right,
the
right,
game that they
right.
play, right? But they've been doing this for years. I mean, years on years on years, and it's what it is. I just tell them, listen, I don't do any. I can't change your paperwork. Your paperwork is your paperwork. I submit it. They accept it. It is what it is.
Right.
But they know that that's where the money is. You get what
I
I'm
get it.
saying?
I absolutely.
So, but we don't go after it.
Richland, you are a storehouse of knowledge. It's been a pleasure talking with you. Ladies and gentlemen, Richalin Rodney. Now, if people want to get in touch with you through your website, social media, otherwise, give it to them.
So my social media is going to be R.Rodney Consulting. My phone number is 188 R.Rodney. You also have www.rrodneyconsulting.com and then also blackbusinessgala.com. You can reach us there as well. All right. And then contact at blackbusinessgala.com as well.
Excellent. And when Richland talks about the Black Business Gala, we're talking about an event which had its inaugural event last year, and the second annual Black Business Gala is taking place very shortly, April 16th, at the Inn at New Hyde Park. And we as the Speak Hope Foundation are very proud to be partnering with you.
Yeah.
Like, subscribe, and share. Help to Adjust Inc., presenting our podcast, If Testimony Was a Person. Peace and love, all.